Hi, everyone. This is the first official Optimal You podcast. And what we're really going to be doing in this episode is just discussing what this page is about and what this particular channel is going to cover. And realistically, a little bit of background information on me. My name is Josh D'Alessandro. I have a master's degree in exercise physiology. I'm also a certified strength coach and certified sports nutritionist. And the first thing that I will say is that, when I was younger and I thought I had an interesting idea about what it was like to be healthy and exercise and everything, I wasn't wrong per se, but I certainly was not even close. And there were certain things that I may have been doing correctly. There were certain things that I was doing completely incorrectly. And there are a lot of reasons for that. I think the main reason that I was trying new things was not because I was inspired by my education. I was inspired a lot of the times by what I heard from other people, what I would read on a magazine, or what I would see on an advertisement, because today we are all so impressionable. We are all so consumed by what the celebrity has to say, or what this person has to say that made an amazing change in their body, which, don't get me wrong, a lot of these people could be doing it correctly. They could have looked into the proper sources, the proper information for themselves, but many, many times we're looking at situations where we rely so much on other people and external sources that aren't even credible. There are a lot of Instagram pages, for example, which, don't get me wrong, I follow some athletes and everything like that too, because they have really good workout ideas. However, there are a lot of people on these social media channels talking as if they know the industry and they have the science background. And a lot of them don't. They just happen to be very successful because of what they have in terms of money, in terms of material, in terms of support. So it's very easy for a celebrity to say, well, this is what you should be doing, even though I have no idea what the science is and I don't know how to individualize it for you, but look at me. I'm this big time celebrity that you totally want to look like, which is not always the case. And a lot of the times these celebrities actually aren't very happy in their pursuit of this goal because it's very taxing, it's very formatted and very structured in a way that is not enjoyable, it's not free, and it's not them. But they're not convinced of that. So the purpose of this particular podcast is to present a lot of information. Some of it's going to be scientific based. It's not going to be crazy. It's not going to be over the top. But I want to be able to share with everybody, not just my experience, because that would be the exact opposite of what I'm trying to do here. My experience, my individual pursuit of my health and wellness is particular to me. So what I want to share is how I got there and how I can apply it to anybody else pursuing their own goal. What you need to do is, when you're listening to this podcast, this is the only thing you should be doing. If you want to be kind of taking notes and stuff, that's awesome. That's exactly what I would recommend. But having this web page open that says get the best beach bod you can is going to take away your attention from what you should be focusing on, which is me trying to help you understand that there's so much individuality between person to person, situation to situation, goal to goal, disease to disease, whatever it might be. So I will say that I am not a medical practitioner. I have been working for almost 2 years now as a medical exercise physiologist, and I've also been working as a collegiate strength coach in the past. I went to Florida State and worked with some Olympic athletes. So I have a wide variety of experience, a wide variety of people. It doesn't matter how many athletes I worked with, how many, clinical patients I worked with, they are not me. So I train them sometimes like I would train myself, but not identical, because that would make me a bad professional and would also make me, just close-minded, because there's no way I can look at, an athlete who's 6'3" but needs to cut body composition and think they should train like me, who's 5'4" and doesn't really need to cut body composition. They're very different entities. And not only that, it's not about the science. It's not about, looking up the most recent research. That stuff is very effective, and it's good to kind of reify why you're choosing something and why you're doing something. But when it comes down to it, science aside, you need to just choose what is best for you. I've spoken to so many people that say, well, I'm going to try, the ketogenic diet because it's something my friend succeeded on. And I'll ask them, I'm like, well, do you do sprint training or HIIT training? They're like, yeah, of course. I'm like, okay, already I don't think you should do keto. They're like, why? I want to get rid of some of this excess body fat. And I was like, well, keto is not going to do it for you, because small example, I'm going to do a whole, discussion on the fad diets or fad nutrition plans because there's a benefit to them. But, keto, for example, is mostly fat, not a lot of carbs. HIIT training, and we'll talk about metabolic systems, HIIT training targets our energy systems that use carbs predominantly. So if you're already going very, very low carb and you're trying to push yourself in intensity, you're going to hurt yourself. You're going to get sick. You're not going to get the results you want. You're going to be in bed, sitting there wishing you had done something else. So once again, when you see someone who has success and they tell you how you did it, pull away from the situation. You have to pull away from the situation because if you don't, you're not going to think about yourself. It's not selfish to think about yourself in the scheme of your health, right? Because if you're healthy, you're going to be a better parent. You're going to be a better friend. You're going to be a better spouse. You're going to be a better employee. It's just every aspect of you improves when you focus on improving you. So I don't want people to come to this page asking, well, what's the best? What's the ideal? I will never, ever on this page say this is the best, this is the worst, because that is so unbelievably naive and so cookie cutter that it frustrates me. Because I've heard so many people say, well, you shouldn't be eating meat. Vegetarian's the best way to go. Really? It hasn't been thousands of years of consuming meat products? You really think that the essential amino acid content in animal protein is not beneficial in some way? Now, listen, if you chose it for moralistic purposes, if you chose it because it means something to you, I totally respect that. But don't come up to me and say it's the best when I have case upon case upon case that shows it's not the best. Okay, so if it works for you, that's great. If you want to try it, that's also great. If you're asking me, I believe in a holistic approach. I don't think that vegetables or even legumes, for example, are protein. To me, it is a carb source, first and foremost. However, you should have some of animal protein, and you should have plant protein, and you should have plant-based carbohydrates. All of these things come together in a holistic nutrition situation. However, another variable, how much of that protein, how much of that carb should you be having? It's different person to person. I'll give you an example of myself. This morning I worked out. I lifted for about an hour and 15, hour and 20 minutes, pretty heavy weight, high volume, and then finished up with high intensity interval training. So I had about 125 grams of carbs straight up from white rice with about 6 to 8 ounces of turkey. So realistically, I'm not going to have 2.5 cups of white rice for dinner. But right after my workout, right after a high intensity workout, and we'll talk about insulin, we'll talk about all that stuff too, it makes perfect sense. But I would not tell someone who hopped on the bike for 20 minutes, which is literally what I did yesterday because it was a recovery day. Yesterday I had an orange after my workout with some turkey. It's very different day to day if you know what you're doing and if you truly want to apply how unique you are versus how unique somebody else is. So that's the gist of this page. I want you to come here and I want you to kind of just listen to me and put it in terms that you can apply it. For example, when I have questions and people are asking me things, I don't want to hear what's the best because I could tell you that, but it would take a really long time because what's best for you is definitely not what's best for someone else. Okay, so with regards to the nutrition, it varies. With regards to the exercise, it varies. There are so many different variables that apply to why this type of nutrition works, why this type of exercise works, why this particular exercise works versus this type of training, right? Like I'm not going to have an endurance person who's training for a marathon squat, as many times or as much weight as maybe someone who's a power lifter. But I'm definitely going to have them do it because the mechanics are very beneficial within the right rep range, within the right scheme of their program. So everything is so different. Even if your sport, which this is one of my favorite quotes, everyone's an athlete and their sport is life. So if you're training for something such as getting up the stairs without breathing heavily, or carrying your groceries home without your arms being on absolute fire and not being able to control it, those are still things you need to train for specifically. The body stuff, the aesthetic is a side effect. I've always said that. And, I'll probably get into it on this page about my personal experience. I've been on all sides. I've been obese. I was obese when I was a child. It's not health-wise as big of a problem, but I had asthma, went to weight loss camp, all this crazy stuff, and I've been anorexic. I've been exercise bulimic, where that's when you literally eat something, feel so bad about it that you go work out. So I know what it's like. I know what it's like to be all different ends of the spectrum, and I still struggle. I always try to tell myself, put the aesthetics on the back burner. It's very tough. It usually creeps its way back up again. And that's something that I think you'll always be dealing with, because a critical person is someone that tries to make improvements. So the only recommendation I make in that sense, and once again, everyone's different, is, focus on your performance, focus on the everyday energy that you have, focus on the lack of heavy breathing that you've been feeling. Focus on the way your clothing feels. Stop hopping on the scale 3-4 times a day and freaking out because it's 3 pounds heavier in the afternoon. Of course it is. Your hormones are different. Your circadian rhythm is everywhere. Who knows what you ate? Even if it was healthy, if it's high in fiber, you're going to gain weight, right? So it's not actual weight. It's our cells absorbing nutrients, removing them as they need to. Okay, so you need to stop being so superficial with it. If you want to choose numbers, how many push-ups did you do? Where did your bench press go? How fast was your mile time? These are all things that will lead to the side effect of having a great body. And a great body doesn't always mean external. You look at these magazines and stuff like that of people with 8-packs, and I'm like, listen, I don't even, physiologically speaking, if you look at a picture of a human being, most of them don't even have 8. So I don't know if it's airbrushed. I don't know if it's whatever, most of it is. Most of it is unattainable for a reason. So stop trying to pursue a dream that is pushing you so far away from who you need to be that you may lose yourself. All right, so that's my biggest recommendation in this whole process. This whole process is about finding yourself, learning something about how to treat yourself, and then also finding balance in your life. That's something I still struggle with, but I've used the people in my life, the people that love me and care about me, to find a better balance than I've ever had. And if you're coming to this podcast to learn everything you need to know in 15 minutes and you think it's going to take a week, then this is not the podcast for you. This is something that will take every year, every month, every day, every second for the rest of your life, because you're only born with 2 things in this life that last forever. That's your social security card and your body. All right. So you need to get there. You need to get to the end of the finish line. Stop looking at beach season. Stop looking at the wedding that's 2 weeks away when you should have started taking care of yourself 3 years ago. All right. If you come to this page, you start now and you look forward for the next 67 years. That's the plan. All right. So come here with this open mind, great perspective. I will be respectful, of course. There are certain things I'm quite passionate against, and I will hold back. But I hope you guys learn something, and I hope you enjoy what you can take away. All right. Stay fit, stay well.